All right, all right. Welcome everybody. My name is Giovanni Ortega. I am the person who directed this piece written by amazing, amazing human beings. So just wanted to welcome everybody from wherever you are today. I am currently in California. We know it's about 12:05 a.m. in California. 8 a.m. in London, 3:30 in Bangalore, India, and 3 p.m. in Singapore. So we're just gonna take some time to discuss our film and share with you all the experience, really wonderful experience that we had working together, doing work for Poetry Festival Singapore 2020, Creation and Legacies. This is the third piece that I've been fortunate to work on. The first one being Benches with Bernice Tay, Palindromes, another piece with music and movement with Zora Imani Smith. And this one is called Belonging, a film with poetry and music. And introducing our cast, Tanvi Kotari. If you could join us, Tanvi. Everybody's applauding wherever they are. Yay!
Hi, everyone. Thanks, Gio.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Hershita Kaursuri. There we go. And Shringi Diva Vikram, who's also joining us. Unfortunately, Roshni Nagaria cannot join us today, but her presence is absolutely felt during our discussion. So welcome, Cass. This is so bizarre, isn't it? It's like we only all together met twice, right? Right. You could unmute yourself,
Yes.
so we could just have a little banter.
Yeah, that's so true.
I know, and it was all at random times. Like it was dark in some places, it was like morning in other places. It's just bizarre.
It is. It is. It's like this kind of reality that we're kind of getting used to. The funny thing is, like in Singapore, Singapore is your on phase 4, is that correct now? You're able to go out, and I don't know what
To be honest, I haven't been keeping much in touch with it, but no, yes, we've been able to go out, yes, with masks on, and with a limit of 5 people if we're gathering.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's just talk about this process. How has the process been for you, the creative process? Because the first part is the writing process. Yeah, Tombi, how was that for you? We've worked together for several years now, and we've worked in several different iterations. Just a little
Yes.
background. Tombi and I worked on the Body series, and that's where I realized, like, there's this is a gift. This person is such a gift. So
Ta-da! No,
ta-da.
I'm just kidding. But
Yeah.
so in terms of the process for this, you know, I think each time that I work with you, I feel like I discover a bit more about myself. And, you know, sometimes, of course, we lose it along the way as well. But then again, so as I worked with you on this piece, it, you know, just reminded me of my process. So in essence, as just to give you a bit of a background, what we did was we started off first with the ideation process. So Giovanni and myself and each of us, we met with Giovanni individually, of course, through technology.
Yeah.
And we discussed a bit more about what we wanted to do with this piece and what we wanted to do individually. And I think, so Giovanni, I think, knows me sometimes better than I know myself, to be honest. So he, you know, he suggested that, hey, you know, since you're such a spiritual person, why don't you explore this aspect of spirituality and the Indian diaspora and what that means to me? So we started with that idea, and you know, to be honest, my process of actually getting things started, it's a bit longer, I have to say. So you know, it was really a semi-tough process for me because I was, you know, just I was searching through my hard drive, right? I was like, what is this? What does it mean to be
There's
an
so
Indian?
much in my hard drive.
So much, but yet nothing. Gosh, that's the worst part. No, so much, but just, you know, in the process of being processed, right? So, you know, that was going on in my head, and I was like, all right, what, and I really go to the very basics, like, what does it mean to be a Singaporean? What does it mean to be a Singaporean Indian? And, you know, what are some aspects that have been the Indian aspects that have formed my experience as a Singaporean. So, you know, to even dissect that and to bring in stories from that also was a bit of a long journey. And also it took a few drafts for me to go through that. And then finally, voila, something just flowed nicely. I think, you know, it was just one of those days, something just flowed nicely. Because I was cracking my head at it for quite some time, and something just flowed and it just hit the spot for me in terms of the writing. So, yeah.
Well, you know, it was really interesting. Mid-July, there was nothing.
Yes.
There was absolutely nothing in mid-July. But by the beginning of August, we had belonging. You know, it's so interesting. Like, you just have to, we just have to constantly trust the art form, and especially in such a short amount of time that we are given, assembling the right team is key. And I'll say this about Tanvi. Tanvi did this piece with creation of my body, the first of the body series that we did in Singapore that brought me to Singapore in 2016. You did a piece about your mother. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
And
So
it just freaking blew me away. And with creation, we were actually in person together for 2.5 weeks. We start with nothing. 2.5 weeks later, we have a show. So I think that was like, that really stayed in my head, and I thought like, well, we really need to bring you back in. And the thing is, like,
Thank
there's
you.
so many phenomenal women that we've worked with in the past few years. There's Sheila, there's Nidhi, there's Kanita. There's so many, right? But we hope that we did some kind of justice.
Sure.
Let's pass it on to Hershey. Oh, so we call you Hershey, but
Hi,
her name is
yes.
Hershita, yeah.
Fun facts about me. So I go by Hershey. However, my real name is Harshita, Harshita Kaur Suri. Um, the way that I'm Sikh, I'm a part of the Sikh religion. In Sikhism, the way we choose the baby's name, or a newborn baby's name, is before they're born, we flip to a random page, or turn to a random page in our Guru Granth Sahib, and the first letter on that page is the first letter of the baby's name. And so I got haha. If anyone knows the Punjabi alphabet, that's the name, that's the letter. As such, I was honestly, they didn't know my gender, so I was either gonna be Harshita or Hirsch. Either way, they wanted to name me Happiness. So I was born Harshita. They got in New York City, by the way. I was born in New York, and then the rest has been history. I moved to San Diego, California when I was 4 years old. I just turned 4. And I've been living in San Diego ever since. I've been living in this house ever since I was 4. So that's my story. My entire extended family is actually also in Southern California. So in Irvine, Anaheim, the Orange County area, LA. So a part of the reason why we moved was because we had such a tight family network here. And that's how I got to be super close with not just my mom, but like I joked I had a series of moms and a series of dads because all my aunts and my uncles were here, and I was the oldest, so I had like, I'm not even kidding, I have 25 brothers and sisters that are like younger than me. So that's just like a little snippet of my life up until this point. But it was really awesome working on this project because I was able to sit down with my mom and my aunt, who actually like grew up and lived in Singapore and actually came to the United States when she was 16, and just hearing both of those stories and understanding where they were coming from related to where I come from it was really enlightening. It was really special. It's not every day you sit down with people you know super well to actually ask about what shaped them. And so I think that was a gift that this film brought me.
Yeah, I mean, oh my goodness. I mean, the first line of your aunt's piece, right? Um,
My aunt actually, she and I became super close in recent years because like family is something you're born with. Like it's not something you choose, right? Oftentimes we have this discussion in our lives of like relationships you
mm,
get to choose and the
mm,
relationships that you're
mm,
with,
mm,
you're born with.
mm.
And growing up, I really loved and cared and cherished my extended family, and I do to this day. But you know, as you grow older and you become your own human being, you start to recognize the humanity in people. I think a lot of the time when you're younger, you idolize the way people are, and think they're perfect, especially the ones that are like older than you. And then you grow up and you start to recognize, okay, yeah, everyone's human. Everyone has their struggles. Everyone has their stories. Everyone has their things that make them tick. And so I think that with my aunt in particular, she and I are really close because as I was growing older and seeing like these like flaws that I would see in my family, um, when I addressed them with her, she was really receptive and warm and loving. And we can disagree, but she like accepts me and loves me for who I am. And I think that's all you really need in family a lot of the time. But she in particular, her mother was someone who just was her best friend, like held her heart in her hand, like heart and soul. And her mother actually passed away not too long ago. And so her doing this interview with me was actually just, it was a very cathartic moment for both of us, because the first thing she told me was my parents' words were God. Like, they just were. She loved them and listened to them blindly. She still does to this day. But especially her mom. Like, she and her mom were like tied at the hip. And so I'm really grateful for just like her being honest with me in that moment. I learned so much from her. I think the greatest gift in telling stories is looking into each other's hearts, because I think it's a moment of just like pure vulnerability that's really hard to overlook when we're all like walking around with masks, like are like the masks we put on every single day. But in telling stories, you get like a glimpse into people's lives. I'm actually Geo student. I've been Geo student for like almost 4 years now. But every single time we're in his class, he makes us do an auto drama, and we all hate
We just
auto
did it.
drama. But honestly, at the end of the day, it's a way to tell stories. It's a way to tell your own personal story, and it allows for greater communication. And in that, like, even someone who is a family member that I've known since I was like 4, I've learned so much more about her.
Thanks so much. Shringy, how was this process for you? Shringy wrote. We asked her to write, and she wrote and wrote and wrote. I mean, you're a writer, right? So that's
Yeah.
what you went to school for.
Yeah,
And then
yeah, I've always processed life by writing about it. If I don't write about it, I don't understand what's happening around me. So I need to write about it to understand it. But this was super interesting for me because I lived in India for 18 years of my life. And then I essentially moved to California when I came to college. And the transition of when I lived in India, there was this constant feeling of needing to get out and needing to be important in this. The influx of Western media in India is huge. So you live your life by what you see on TV and by what you see and like imagining the West. So this need to get out and be important in that sense was so overpowering when I lived in India. And that was mainly what guided me. And then I left India and I had to reconfigure my identity by seeing all these other people around me and realizing that Indian people all over the world had such different experiences and different stories, and trying to figure out then what it meant to be an Indian woman in this different space. And I didn't realize how privileged it was to be able to leave India at all when I wanted to, and leave in a way. I wasn't being forced out, I chose to leave. And that's an incredibly, not everybody gets to do that. And not everybody in India got what I got. And I had to discover that and discover what it meant to hold on to that when I moved as well. I learned so much about myself while I was writing through this process. I've never done anything in which I've just explored my identity with a bunch of women who have a similar background to me. And it was such a gift because it required so much vulnerability, and I don't think I would have been able to do it somewhere else. And these people were able to do it with me, and I learned from them and learned about how differently we live, but also how similarly we live.
yeah, and gosh, I mean, you touch upon something so simple yet profound of someone leaving, right?
Yeah.
I think I myself have, of course, but for for each for each one of you, also Roshni, who's not with us virtually right now, is actually from the UK, is from London, who's now currently um, uh, residing in Singapore, and that's a totally different back up purview of what it is like. Um, so it's really interesting how we really touched upon the diaspora. And I remember the first meeting, we were like, uh, how how am I going to talk about Indian identity? You realize how mad that is, right? I mean, the subcontinent itself is so filled with so many differences. And then you talk about the people who left, families who left India from, the West Indies to the South Pacific to the US to Singapore to Europe. It's so disparate. Um, uh, but we somehow did it and did it. I mean, pat ourselves on the back. I think successfully because in the past 2 weeks, I've had students or people who have been I've shared the emails and the accolades of the impact of the stories. And most of these people don't identify with Indian heritage whatsoever. And the amazing thing about it are the shared experiences, um, the shared experiences that people have. And I think the title really encapsulates that because people kept on saying, it really made me feel what it's like to belong. Where do I belong? And that was an underlying, what it is the theme, right? And I just love that we were able to find that. How about the filming? Let's talk about, so you wrote and we cut, and you wrote and we cut, and then we were like, you have 3 days to film everything. How was that how was that for everybody? Just briefly share about that.
I would just
Yeah,
like
go
to let you know that I carried my tripod and my ring light around my house and during a heat wave in California.
ahead. It was hot.
It was so much. I was like sweating during like recording like the million self-tapes that I was recording. Also, here's the thing with live theater, you don't get to watch yourself. Whereas when you film yourself in self-tape, you have to watch yourself. So the amount of, I will say that I made a lot of like blooper compilations for myself. Every time I messed up, I just like put them together for my own like friendships to like laugh at me for, because I messed up so many times when recording. But the commitment, I committed to this. Just letting you know, Gio.
Yeah, well, we saw it. We definitely saw it. How about for you, Tanvi? Oh,
Yeah.
great work, everybody. I'm just like thinking about the film, and I'm just so impressed by the work that you all did.
Yeah, I think it was a tough process for me. I think main thing was I was like, okay, I've got the words written down. Now, how do I translate that to a visual moving piece, right? So it's not only like photos, but like a moving image sort of piece. So I had a tough time with that. And I remember that Roshni and myself, we went to Little India on that Saturday, on that weekend, right? That Saturday. And, we were like, oh, yeah, oh, this is interesting. That's interesting. So, we were trying to take different shots and videos and things like that. And, different things would come up and like, oh, okay, right, this would go well with this sort of words and things like that. And, you know, sometimes I'd look at an image and I'll go, hey, that's a nice image. And even Roshni would be like, yeah, that's nice. And we would try to film it. And when I saw Roshni filming it, right, I was like, oh, wow, that was also another learning process for me. Because, you know, just the way that she went for the angles and, you know, I'm not sure whether she had it clear in her mind or she was experimenting or she has experience with it, but I learned so much from her as she was going through different angles and you know, I was just like, oh wow, like looking through her footages and going, okay, wow, so we've had maybe similar footages, but just the way that she's gone to capture it, that was amazing. So I learned so much from her. And I remember it was like almost a full day expedition to Little India, and I was limping at the end of the day. I had blisters and all, but you know, it was all in fun and games. But that night when I went back home, I was like, oh my gosh, it hurts. But you know, it was good. Like, it's such a great experience to learn, right? I think it, and even in terms of using for me, I utilized just my my tablet, and I utilized this app, Filmic Pro. So I've had it for some time on my tablet and even on my phone, but I've just never, you know, worked it out. So I had the chance to work out even the camera functions, and even as I was putting the images together, so different things were coming up. So I'm not sure if you all have this process, but I think for me, as I was editing as well, different things were coming up, and I was like, oh great, maybe, you know, I'll sound out something for this piece.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that's crazy. I'm not sure how everyone else's processes, but it's just, I think mine has a bit of a chaotic mess, which makes sense at the end of the day. But at the start, it doesn't make sense at all. And, you know, even as I was editing things, certain portions of things, I started by putting the audio in, and then I started to put the videos in. I'm not sure if that's what people do. And then for other segments, I put the video stuff in, and then the audio. And I was just trying to work out even the editing software as well. So, or rather the application, because I was just working off from my tablet. And I'm like, whoa, it's so amazing. And I mean, no doubt I've learned, you know, just a tiny portion of how to translate words to like a film. And, you know, that's exciting. And that's just the tip of the iceberg, but still a long way to go, but a good start. So I'm quite happy.
Yeah, yeah. And how about you, Shargi?
It was difficult for me also. I really wanted to do a section of my film outside with trees and greenery. I talked a lot about forests and nature, and they meant a lot to me when I was growing up, and were really just really formative in the way that I react to the world now. And I like to see like trees, and they make me feel peaceful now. So I walked around the city with a tripod and camera during a pandemic with a mask on, to find a place that was empty enough for me to film at. And I think that because we were filming ourselves, and because the director wasn't there, Gio wasn't there with us, there's a like aspect of self-direction involved, and you're trying to figure out how to translate your own pieces into film and into spoken word, which is really difficult because it's hard for me to see myself and hear myself on screen, because I tend to be very critical of the moments and really analyze what I'm doing and try to redo them so that they really match what I see in my head, which isn't always possible. And in live theater, you aren't seeing yourself, so it's easier to deal with that because it's harder to be critical of like your facial expressions and things. And it was difficult mainly because what I was talking about was so personal, and it was difficult to critique that in a way to make sure that it would translate to other people, and that to make sure that it was still personally relevant to me. I've never had to artistically critique my identity before, and that was interesting to do. Yeah,
But
that was.
also Siddhant, you had people in
Yeah,
Bangalore
I had
filming for you.
so another student of Geo's, who's a first year at the place that I graduated from, filmed parts of the city with me, and he really got some beautiful images of the rain, which is what I think about when I think of home and the airport and just the streets in Bangalore. And my brother got some images of the school that I went to as well, and there were just things that were put together from many different areas of the world, because I'm in California and these people in Bangalore, India were helping me
Hmm.
build things. And the collaboration involved in it was so evident. I also learned, because this was going on film, and because the medium is so different from live theater, which is embodied, and I tend to really mark what I'm doing in live theater and rehearse every moment so that I can do it over and over again. I found that I had to really let this come from a more visceral space. I couldn't just imitate the physical action that's sometimes possible to do in live theater.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it would just
Yeah.
sound too rehearsed, and it would make me unhappy when I heard my own voice or saw it again. So I had to put myself in the mindset over and over again, which was emotionally exhausting as well.
Yeah, and in addition to that, Rashni also did film, of course, in Singapore, but there were moments, chapati and chai, that was parts of it was her dad making chai in London. So I just love that, the whole idea of the diaspora really coming together and working together, right? So I just want to acknowledge that. But I do want to bring in, because now we're talking about the film, our editor, Patrick Nan. So Patrick, if you could join us just for a little bit. Hey, Patrick, how's it
Hello.
going?
It's going really well. Now that the weekend is here, I'm very happy.
How was that? How was that 5 days of editing? How did that go? Basically, we were like, send your clips, and it was like a barrage, and we we were like, uh, we have to get it uploaded
Yeah, by the
on
end of
Wednesday.
the week. Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
Wednesday, yeah.
yeah.
And yeah, this was probably one of the more hectic projects, thanks, of course, but then, of course, with the guidance of the director, Gio, it really felt like a very collaborative project, especially in the editing Zoom room, I guess.
We literally zoomed together to ensure
Yeah.
that everybody's vision. We
Mhm.
tried to tighten that. Yeah.
Yeah. There was even a portion near the end where I think the place where I used to live at, the Wi-Fi went out for a brief period, and so I had to use my cell phone to call Geo on Messenger and hold my phone up to my computer screen just to show him, okay, this is what's playing and this is what's going on. And and I even looked at how long the call was, and it's just an hour and a half of me holding a phone up while using my other hand just to make sure everything was okay. So
And that was like the night before we were
the
editing
night
from 9 to
before,
2 9 to 2 a.m.
oh my god, it's yeah.
Uh,
But
and
yeah,
I must say, like, Patrick is such a pro and such a great person to work with. The talent he had to put that all together, right? The coloration. If I don't know if you get to see it again, and I hope you get to see it again. If it's a memory, there's a saturation of sepia. Oh, well, you can explain what the coloration was, because you
oh
know
yeah,
it better.
oh yeah. So there's there's been a kind of trend between my works with Geo, whenever we want to symbolize a memory, we would use a sepia tone over our over several sections, but it wouldn't be the same sepia each time. It'd always have to
There's a
be,
certain saturation, right?
yeah. We had to pick, and I remember having to showing the image to you and say, do you like number 1 or number 2? Like one of those like eye doctors when you're just looking at to see like, is it number 1, number 2? No difference. Number 1 clear, number 2. But yeah, it was the sepia tone really brought out the nostalgic feeling of old black and white film, and it really was a great project to work on, especially just talking with Geo directly, like in the same room, just to make sure we were on the same page and make sure that the piece was serving the audience very well, and to make sure that they understood the sort of theme or the motif that was going on with the sepia tone with each piece. And I thought that was a really great process going forward.
Thanks so much, Patrick, for such an amazing job.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. But last but not least, I do want to bring out Zora, who's our music coordinator. Zora, come join us. Hey, Zora, Imani. Wait a minute, were you in Palindromes? Did I see you in the play last year?
Yes, I was in Palindromes with Giovanni, and that was another thing. It was another diasporic story.
Yeah. But you joined us in putting together the music. So tell us what that experience was, hearing all these songs that people brought into the fold. And then we'll ask the cast the songs that you chose and why you chose those songs.
Right. I think when you first approached me to make some music for Belonging, I had to do like a lot of like research. I'm like, oh God, I can't be like putting like something that does not match, and it's supposed to be about the Indian diaspora. It has to be about for the culture and representative of the culture. So I had Tanvi, who's on my right. She really helped me. I was like, please, you gotta show me some kind of music that it was actually writing the music for Tanvi's poetry. So it was using her writing and transforming it into lyrics and having a music accompany that. So I really relied on Tanvi to like connect me with Indian music. And I think I was really inspired by, it was Khwaja Mere Khwaja from Jorda Akbar, the movie. And I think that one specific song was what, like, I was like, yeah, because it seemed to have everything that I needed, that I knew that I could recreate. Because then I'm not trained musician in Indian classical music. So I was like, okay, at least I have something. And it's like, oh, there's the harmonium, there's the drums that was necessary, the coal drums that I need to bring in. And hearing their music, that Shringi and Hershey sent, and also Roshni as well, that really helped me. And I was like, I kind of lacked the voice, because I think the voice is such like a huge part about Indian music, is the singing, which is, I can't emulate that. I can't, because I'm not trained in that. And it's very, very, very beautiful and also very advanced style of singing. But I had like the best singers who were recording themselves. Literally, I was like, this is perfect. This is amazing. So I just incorporated that as much as possible as I could that would fit with the song that I made, that seemed to be like a thematic
music thematic element to the whole film, which I noticed. Yeah, I talked a lot, but that I was like basically telling my whole like process.
No, I think it was really important to have your touch in sound mixing as well as creating the kind of the theme, the background theme music that permeates throughout. Is what one main reason is because the artists are in literally three different locations and do not see each other. And I feel that something that connects us when we're away from home and we're trying to say that these four different characters, four different women are away from each other, the only thing that'll connect them is the music, right?
Yes.
In family, right? When I left, there's still a song that I remember that my grandmother used to sing for me, even if she's gone, even if she's on the other side of the earth. And so I think that's what we created, is the only way to be together is to have that music. And I for days, I was humming those words. Let's start with Hershey. Hershey, the song you sang and the songs you chose. Tell us a little bit about it.
Yes. So I sang Meri Garyai and a shabad from Sikhi called Jo Mange Thakur Te Apanete. The first song I chose, which was Meri Garyai, that's a shabad. That's not a shabad. Sorry, that's a song that's popular in India. It's a very popular song in India. I apologize, guys. It is almost 1 a.m. here, so my brain is going woo. So, anywho, yeah, it's a song that my mother used to sing to me when she would put me to bed. My mom would always just like pet my hair while I fell asleep and sing this song that in the movie that the song is from, the Bollywood film, it's a mom singing to her daughter, and it directly translates to like, my daughter has come home, my sweet daughter has come home to me. It's really sweet and touching, and it's something that like my mom will sing. If I sing it to my mom to this day, she'll cry because she misses me all the time. I'm like, I'm her little girl, but I'm grown up. And so I directly paired that with my aunt's piece in honor of her mother and her relationship with her mother. As I know that she misses her mom so much. And that her mom passing away really affected her. And so I wanted to honor that. And I wanted to honor the fact that, you know, even if you're alive or not, like, your relationship, that bond you have with people lives on. That love lives on. And so that's the first song I chose. The second shabad I chose also has a personal significance to me. It's a shabad called Jo Mange Thakur Te Apanete. And it directly translates to whatever you ask for. If you like pray to Vaheguru, if you believe in Vaheguru, he will give it to you if you have the best interests in heart. That shabad has marked my childhood as well. We grew up going to the Gurdwara all the time, doing shabads and kirtan at home, often praying as a family. Since COVID has started, the amount of prayers that have happened in this household have skyrocketed. So many prayers all the time. But truly, like, that shabad was the first one I learned. That's the first one I learned and I sang with my family, and the first one that I learned to play on the vaja. And I chose it with my mom's song, particularly because my mom and I have a very like special and unique relationship. I think that she and I can call her even if I don't want to admit it, she knows me very well. And like, I can call her for anything, and she's the person that I know no matter what I do, she will be there because she's my mom. So we're very close, but also we have the mother-daughter relationship, right? Where she's still my mother. She still tells me what to do, and I don't like it a lot of the time. I'm struggling in that place where I'm a growing adult, and I'm a growing adult in America, which is so different than India and India's customs. But that's a long ways to say that my mom has a lot of faith. And that's something I really admire about her, because no matter what life throws her way, she has faith in the people around her. She has faith in Vaheguru. She has faith in her parents and her brother and just the people that she loves, even if they're not physically around her. And so I wanted to pair a song that was about faith and had like an emotional tie to both of our relationships. And since that was the first Shabad she taught me, I figured, why not pair it? It also goes well with the fact that, you know, she and my dad often have told me that the only reason we're in America and the only reason that my brother and I have the lives that we do is because of Vaheguru, and it's because they prayed so. I've often heard from my mom that like the reason I'm alive, or the reason they had me, was also because they prayed super, super hard, because she was having a lot of problems with her pregnancies before me. But so I wanted to honor her. I wanted to honor her faith. And so I paired this piece with her story. And then, you know, I didn't pair any songs with my story because I sing all the time. Why would I need another song? Like,
that is true. How about you, Tanvi?
Yeah, so I think for me, the only written song that was meant to be in the piece was more of the mantra. So it's called, so it's a Jain mantra. It's called Naukar mantra. So that one, I think it came about just as I was exploring the spiritual aspects of I guess, of my experiences. And I thought that was a good place to start off, because I am born in a Jain family, and I think the way that I've been able to also I don't know what the term is, but I guess to be able to be spiritual even in other places of worship as well, I think most probably has the foundations of coming from a Jain family and from being in a Jain religion, or as Roshni says, way of life, the Jain way of life. So I wanted to start it off with that. So I think that was straight up at the top of my head, and that was just put out there. The rest of the sounds, I think they were just sounds which I thought would be, as I put the pieces together in a visual form, certain sounds just came into me, I guess, if you, in a whoopie whoop way, if you like to say it that way, but no, it just came into me, and I thought that, okay, this would be, you know, certain sounds would be good for certain pieces. So for example, there were certain visual images that I saw, and very interestingly, I think, so one of the pieces where there was a card placed, you know, what do you want from life? So even for that as well, I saw certain visual images there. And as I saw that, I saw drums, you know, just those touristy drums that you sometimes get. And I thought, okay, that would be quite nice to have. So I just randomly played with the drums. And I thought that as I played it randomly, and I came across a certain sound that I thought would be nice to go with the piece. So I went with that. Even for the Gurudwara piece as well, for me, because a lot of times I associate the Gurudwara with the sounds of the kirtan. So if I'm not wrong, in the kirtan, there's also the harmonium playing and the tabla playing as well. So with that, the harmonium sound rang with me more. And so I've got a harmonium at home, and I just played around with it and just added that sound in. And likewise also with the humming, there was a humming of certain sounds in the different pieces. And that just, I felt it out, and it just came in, that it just formed up quite nicely in that sense. So yeah, and then I thought, because I'm exploring a lot of different musical instruments, and then I thought, you know what, maybe I'm not a musician, I'm a soundician. So yeah. Yeah, in a nutshell, in a big nutshell, that's how things came about.
There you go. There you go. And Stringy, last but not least, the song that just kept on playing over and over inside my head to this day. You share a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I didn't sing myself. I'm not a singer. And I picked a song that's personally relevant to me for several reasons. And I think Hershey, Roshni, Tanvi, and Zora sang it beautifully. Um, this song was something, my school had these assemblies in which people would sing, or the school would sing Indian songs together. And I shied away from it for most of my life because I thought it wasn't the music that we were listening to on the radio, and it wasn't what was playing on TV, and it just wasn't cool. And this song was something that played in those assemblies. And it represents sort of, for me, my own acceptance of my own Indian identity and my own journey, and learning to love it, and learning to love where I was, and learning what I wanted to keep in myself and what I wanted to recreate. It's also a song that signifies my relationship with my mother. I think everything about my story and everything that I am today is because of my mother, and what she could do and what she couldn't do, and what she wanted for me and what she didn't want for me, and the way I circumnavigated the whole thing. My grandfather was a poet who wrote in Hindi, and my mother had a very special relationship with her father, and this was a poem that he loved. And my mom sang it while she was growing up, and then she would sing it around the house while we were growing up as well. And even now, when I think of home, the constant thing that I hear is just my mother's voice singing. And she has a really lovely voice. And I heard it all the time. And when I left in the airport, I would hear my mother's voice singing. And I didn't like the song for a long time. And for a long time, I also tried very hard not to be like my mother and not to become what she wanted for me, because I had this idea that she wanted me to do all that she had done. And at that time, I thought that she hadn't lived her life the way that I would like to live my life. And I didn't understand the choices that had limited her, the choices that had made her, and the bravery that she really had, because she was a woman in India in a time where women weren't given as much as men. And she really made herself and gave love in a way that I haven't seen anybody else give, and did so much. And I am able to do everything that I am today because she constantly pushed me to do everything that I've done. So the song also just represents learning to appreciate her, and learning to appreciate my relationship with her, and develop from it, and learning to love like her with the same warmth and compassion, and just put that heart into everything I do.
Did you say the name of the song? I can't.
Oh yeah, it's Neer Ka Nirman. It's written by a poet called Harivansh Rai Bachchan. And it's called Neer Ka Nirman.
Well, that's all we have for everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. I think it's a great way to kind of end our show. We're gonna do a screenshot, y'all. Ready? 1, 2, 3. You heard it. You heard it. Thank you so much for being part of Poetry Festival Singapore and watching our film Belonging. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.